All right, our first speaker today is Dr. Sarah Morice-Brubaker. Dr. Morice-Brubaker is an assistant professor of theology at Phillips Theological Seminary. She holds a BA in religious studies from Yale University, a Master of Theological Studies from Duke Divinity School, and a PhD in theology from the University of Notre Dame. Please welcome Sarah Morice-Brubaker. All right. You are welcome. Let's be sure we got you all set there.
Hello.
There you go.
Thank you, and thank you all. It's such a pleasure for me to be here today. I'll be speaking twice. The first to take you on a sort of guided tour of some places that we'll visit together, and then later as part of the panel. And it's just really a thrill. This is in some ways the best kind of conversation to have, because we have the face-to-face and we have the virtual, and I think they can be mutually enriching, and that's one of the points I'll be coming back to, and I hope you find it to be the case. So again, thank you. This afternoon we're going to visit, well, let's call it for now a facility. At this facility we could, if we wanted, watch pilgrims perform the Hajj in Saudi Arabia, or we could listen to a girl from Manhattan discuss her Torah portion during her bat mitzvah. We could watch the Sunday sermon from Life Church, a church community right here in Tulsa. And we could do it while wearing a dragon costume if we liked, without having to worry that word would get back to our bosses. Except for me, because my bosses are here. We could listen to religious music of any stripe imaginable, and we could lounge in a palatial library and read literature about the great faiths of the world. But that's only part of it, and perhaps not even the most important part. For all of the activities I've just mentioned are spectator activities. They're things you look at passively. They might be enriching, but they don't draw you into community. You look, you learn, and you move on. But in fact, the facility we're going to visit allows us to do much more than that. It could, if we wished, allow us to make friends, get into arguments, set up a business, talk to people. It could put us in the position of having to set boundaries, to apologize when we violated others' boundaries, to learn that our assumptions have offended someone. We could wish that bat mitzvah girl our best. We could get harassed by people who wish us harm. We could ask communities to pray for us. We could decide to convert to a faith other than the one into which we were born. We could learn how to do it and receive support and encouragement, or warnings and criticisms along the way. Those are much more active things than simply being a spectator, and they are also more vulnerable. And the reason I'm emphasizing this point is not because we're going to do all those things today. Today we will be mostly spectators, but I want us to understand that what we're looking at, and what it could mean if we chose to stay at one of these places, to linger, to put down roots, and to get to know people. Because, of course, the facility I'm talking about is the internet. And it's easy in discussions of technology to get overwhelmed by the thought, oh, look at all the cool stuff you can do. And indeed, you can do cool stuff. And because the pace of technological innovation keeps accelerating, it seems as though each day you can do more cool stuff. But once you get past the cool factor, people are still people. More connections between people allow for more opportunities for people to show their best and worst ways of interacting. There's ways of building community and tearing it down. The technology is not going away, but neither has it totally changed who people are. It's not a magical force for world peace, and it's not an abomination that will destroy face-to-face community any more than writing meant that people stopped speaking, or telephones meant the death of dinner parties. These innovations simply open up more and different kinds of interactions between people. And so as we start our tour, I hope we will keep an eye out for those possibilities of interactions in addition to all the cool stuff. Our first stop is Islamicity. This site describes itself as a global Muslim community. We are spectators here, and there are plenty of things for a spectator to do here. For example, if we are not Muslim but want to learn about Islam, we can click on the left menu bar item, Understanding Islam. Or if we are Muslim and want to know prayer times, we could get those from the front page. If we want to read the Quran or search within the Quran for a search term, we can do so in multiple languages. We can also listen to it recited, and there are tools to help with Quran memorization. We can also do that most spectatorial of activities, watch television. There is a live Saudi TV available on Islamicity, and there is also searchable video with categories like Al Jazeera English, original shows, science and nature, prayers, scholarly lectures, debates, films, and comedy. And if you click on I See Tunes, you have a whole music library at your fingertips. I wonder if we could just listen to a sample. It works! Thank you. And if you want to buy something, thankfully I think this part's silent. If you want to buy something, you can click on I See Bazaar, where you can purchase Qurans, gift cards, home decor, books, and all sorts of things for children. But all of these activities are pretty passive. What about things that bring you into contact with others? Islamicity has that too. On the left menu bar, you can click on Q&A, Ask the Imam, where you can submit a question to the Imam, and there are so many that they can't have them all listed here. You actually have to search by topic. Yeah, so that's just one letter, and then there are these very long explanations and questions. But the community portal, on the left under Community and Social, is where you can really start to form relationships over time. I can't really see.
Way at the bottom.
It's under Community and Social? Oh, yeah, under Explore Islamicity, Community and Social, there we go. That was my fault. My directions in my manuscript weren't very directive. There is information here about charity opportunities, events, resources for children, resources for medical care, a directory of services. And then if you look on the right under related links, so go up a little, on the right. Down there, yeah, lower. Oh. Yeah, there you go. Oh, lower, there we go. There's this link, Chat and Discussion, which takes you to the message forum. And so you can see, I mean, this is where people talk to each other. And if you scroll down a bit, there is a section for interfaith and then intra-faith dialogue, and then people can start a discussion and other people can reply to it. So each of these is something that somebody has posted as a discussion topic. And then other people reply, and you can see the replies, and you can quote other people's messages. So really interesting, vigorous discussion and debate happens here. So it's not at all passive. Okay. So that was one stop on our tour. But from here, let's go to New York. Let's go uptown to 652 Lexington Avenue at 55th Street, Central Synagogue. Central Synagogue is a 140-year-old Reform synagogue. Its beautiful historic building, which you can see up there in the picture a little bit of, was severely damaged by a fire in 1998, just as a renovation was being completed. But amazingly, the Ark and the Eternal Light were unharmed, and the Torah scrolls had been removed because of the renovation. In the aftermath of the fire, the synagogue received support from interfaith leaders of communities all over the world, including Cardinal Egan and the Archbishop of Canterbury. The significant damage to the synagogue was, over the next few years, repaired, and I understand they even involved the youngest members of their community. There's an area in the synagogue where the preschool children at the time painted the walls that have been replaced. And as you can see, the building today is breathtaking. I was fortunate enough to be able to watch a bat mitzvah in this beautiful synagogue 2 Friday nights ago. No, I didn't travel to New York. Central Synagogue live streams their Friday and Saturday services. So while the bat mitzvah was offering her thoughts on her Torah portion, my husband and I were making pizza and repainting our dining room window trim respectively. But we got to hear her thoughts, and we got to celebrate with her sort of at a great distance, because we don't know her, but we were happy for her. So they don't have a service streaming now, so we can't watch it. But that's how you would get to the live streaming service, is you would click on worship and then live streaming. Live streaming is slightly different from broadcasting your worship on television, because for live streaming, you don't need to be in a particular broadcast area. You only need to have a fast enough internet connection. And I hope we can all appreciate, I mean, we're in a church whose services are broadcast, and it's not as though one is clearly better than another. It's a question of what your group's mission is and what tools help you get the job done best. Central Synagogue is one of the largest Reform congregations in the United States, as well as one of the oldest continuously operating synagogues in the U.S. It's important, this synagogue is important to Jews, even those who don't live in Manhattan or can't get there. And so their live streaming is part of their mission and their understanding of themselves, and as such, it has really proven to be something people want. On high holy days, according to their website, 10,000 online visitors, 10,000, participated in the service through live streaming. The prayers include petitions for those live streaming the service, and their mission statement affirms the role of the live streaming for, quote, the growing population of unaffiliated or underserved Jews and non-Jews who draw inspiration and comfort from our worship services. If you decide to live stream one of their services, and really it's quite beautiful, I do recommend it if you find yourself home at the appropriate time. But if you decide to live stream one of their services and you don't know Hebrew or aren't familiar with Jewish liturgy, have no fear. If you go to follow along, they give you, so if you click on order of service, they give you the scriptures for the week and the Hebrew and then translations. And if you go, if you click on Saturday morning supplement right there, you can download an order of service that the community came up with themselves. So that's actually quite easy to follow along with. I don't know Hebrew, and I found it really easy. But we're not visiting Central City at the right time for a service, so if we want to see what they do, we need to look at one of their archived files. Could we actually go back to it for just a second? There we go. So if you click on worship again, and then go to sermons, you know, this is familiar to those of you who either here or at another church archive your sermons online. You can just click on them and then listen to the sermon. So, are we going to be able to do that? It does work. I tested this before I came here. There we go.
Today, as many of us know, our weather began with a few snowflakes, then a distinct squall, followed by this blizzard, which is occurring right outside our walls.
Yeah, far cry from our weather here in Tulsa today. All right, from here, let's go to our next stop. And I said earlier that Central Synagogue live streams their sermons, and I contrasted that to broadcasting them. In fact, though, they do both. Their sermons are broadcast on the TV channel Shalom TV, which is the website we're visiting now. Shalom TV is a Jewish-oriented channel available on Comcast, Cox, Time Warner, other well-known subscription TV services. But if you don't have a television, if, like an increasing number of people, you access video entertainment solely through your computer or through services like Netflix and Hulu, then have no fear. The website for Shalom TV also streams its programming for free. All you need to do is click Watch Live, and you can watch whatever Shalom TV is broadcasting. So let's see what they're showing.
By other human behavior that is not as terrible as what happened, by the way, in the Nazi world.
That's probably good.
What are examples, give me 2 examples of what you saw, which at one point would have been incomprehensible to you in terms of human behavior?
Like, for example, the execution of this poor boy in forced labor camp. We were supposed to contribute to the war effort, and instead.
Thank you. And of course, this is one of the more spectatorial stops on our tour. Shalom TV broadcasts. There aren't areas on this site for forums or for community building. At the same time, what Shalom TV chooses to broadcast does provide people for ways to access things communities are doing. Shalom TV is carried in 45 million homes, and as I pointed out a moment ago, they carry things like Central Synagogue services or programs at the 92nd Street Y in New York. If you don't know the history of the 92nd Street Y, its full name is the 92nd Street Young Men's and Young Women's Hebrew Association. It's a Jewish center not affiliated with the YMCA. And in this sense, Shalom TV allows you not just to watch its original series, like From Date to Mate, a humorous mockumentary about the urban dating scene, but also to eavesdrop on aspects of Jewish life. Moving on to our next stop, and in a similar vein, the iTunes selection of religion podcasts allows you to eavesdrop on conversations happening among people of different faiths or no faith. Perhaps you think of iTunes as a place mainly to get music, and it is wonderful for that. It supports a number of different file formats, but its history was with playing MP3s. Before iTunes was iTunes, that is, before it was bought by Apple, it was called SoundJam MP. SoundJam MP was early Mac-compatible software to play MP3s. And indeed, the backstory of iTunes, I mean, this will seem kind of obscure, but it actually really is important to understanding the moment we find ourselves in. The backstory of iTunes and music is very important to what we're discussing today. And so before we look closely at some of the faith-themed offerings available on the iTunes podcast page, I'd like to read to you from a blog post by Clay Shirky, a writer, consultant, and professor whose work I'll be discussing in my talk later. Shirky writes, 15 years ago, a research group called the Fraunhofer Institute announced a new digital format for compressing movie files. This wasn't a terribly momentous invention, but it did have one interesting side effect. Fraunhofer also had to figure out how to compress the soundtrack. The result was the Motion Picture Expert Group Format 1 Audio Layer 3, a format you know and love only through its acronym MP3. The recording industry concluded this new audio format would be no threat because quality mattered most. Who would listen to an MP3 when they could buy a better sounding CD at the record store? Then Napster launched and quickly became the fastest growing piece of software in history. The industry sued Napster and won, and it collapsed even more suddenly than it had arisen. If Napster, Shirky continues, had only been about free access, control of legal distribution of music would then have returned to the record labels. But that's not what happened. Instead, Pandora happened, Last.fm happened, Spotify happened, iTunes happened, Amazon began selling songs in the hated MP3 format. How did the record industry win the battle but lose the war? How did they achieve such a decisive victory over Napster and then fail to regain control of even legal distribution channels? They crushed Napster's organization, they poisoned Napster's brand, they outlawed Napster's tools. The one thing they couldn't kill was the story Napster told. The story the recording industry used to tell us went something like this. Hey kids, Alanis Morissette just recorded 3 kickin' songs. You can have them, so long as you pay for the 10 mediocre ones she recorded at the same time. Napster told us a different story. Napster said, you want just the 3 songs? Fine. Just You Ought to Know? No problem. Every cover of blue suede shoes ever made? Help yourself, you're in charge. The people in the music industry weren't stupid, of course. They had access to the same internet the rest of us did. They just couldn't imagine, and I mean this in the most ordinarily descriptive way possible, could not imagine that the old way of doing things might fail. Yet things did fail, in large part because after Napster, the industry's insistence that digital distribution be as expensive and inconvenient as a trip to the record store suddenly struck millions of people as a completely terrible idea. Once you see this pattern, a new story rearranging people's sense of the possible with the incumbents the last to know, you see it everywhere. First, the people running the old system don't notice the change. When they do, they assume it's minor, then that it's a niche, then a fad, and by the time they understand that the world has actually changed, they've squandered most of the time they had to adapt. And again, that's by Clay Shirky, and that's from a blog post on shirky.com, which is his personal blog. Keeping Shirky's words of warning in mind, let's look at the Religion and Spirituality Podcasts page. A podcast, as you might be able to guess from the name, is like a broadcast. It's episodic, and you can subscribe to it. Phillips Theological Seminary has a chapel podcast, if anyone would like to subscribe to that. When you subscribe to it, then each time there's a new episode available, your device automatically downloads it from the web. And your device could be your laptop, your iPod, another portable media player that you own. Applications that let you subscribe to and download podcasts are called podcatchers. And when Apple added a podcatcher application to iTunes, iTunes very quickly became the most popular one. Who can make podcasts? Well, a lot more people than would ever be in the position to make their own radio station or cut their own album. iTunes doesn't let you make a podcast. For that, you need software to record and edit, plus some relatively inexpensive audio equipment. And iTunes doesn't host your media files. You need to host them on your own website or pay for third-party hosting. You also need to set up what's called an RSS feed, which lets your podcasts be syndicated properly. And I've not done that, so don't ask me for advice on how to set up your podcast. I'll refer to you to the people in the technology fair later. But my understanding from reading a number of sites, sort of walking people through this process, is that you can set up a pretty slick one-person podcast for a couple $100 worth of audio equipment, like a headset with noise-canceling headphones and a portable MP3 voice recorder, plus whatever you're paying for hosting. So this is really democratized. I mean, I could, if I wanted to and had the time, make a religion and spirituality podcast, and I could get it on iTunes where people could find it. What kind of religion and spirituality podcasts are out there? Well, let's take a look. So if we go to the Religion and Spirituality podcast page, we can see news and noteworthy and what's hot, sort of in front and center. And then if we scroll down, you'll see where you can click on Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, other, or spirituality. Other runs the gamut, such as I can see, from pagan, Wiccan, to atheist, to, I noticed there was a Satanist one there, maybe it's not up at the top yet, but but sort of everything that's not caught in the other ones. And then spirituality, if you go to that, includes a lot of podcasts that could easily really be in other categories if we were going by religion, but tend to emphasize spiritual practice. So I noticed there were a lot on meditation. I think there's one on the labyrinth. So things that did have some other faith that they were part of, but emphasize spirituality and spiritual disciplines. And then, yes, there are some that are advocating the spiritual but not religious standpoint as the view that they're espousing. Okay. And now we go somewhere really fun. This is something much more participatory, something that will probably immerse you more than a podcast would. We're going to enter what many people consider to be another world, and that world is called Second Life. If you're somebody who participates a lot in Second Life, you might say to somebody else, "I'll meet you in world tonight at 7 p.m." And that means in Second Life. And maybe a helpful way of thinking about Second Life is this. An ordinary web page looks a little like a page of a magazine, right? It's set up as something to be read. The word web page gives us a clue that it's replacing something like a paper page. Hopefully some thought has been given to graphic design, and hopefully you can find things easily. It may have video, probably embedded in a little box, like a photo would be in a magazine. It may have discussion forums, but often it's in some sense meant to be a written document. Second Life is not like that. Second Life looks like an environment that you're in. It's similar to a first-person video game. It looks like you're moving through space. But there's more to it than that. Other people are in there too. You can see them. You can see their avatars. And behind each avatar is another person somewhere in the world at their computer. You can text chat with them. You can voice chat with them. And you can manipulate the Second Life environment itself. This is where people's minds go. You can buy real estate in Second Life using Linden dollars, which is the currency of Second Life. Linden dollars are named for Linden Labs, the company that developed Second Life. And you get Linden dollars in the same way that you get any other foreign currency. You convert some of the money that you actually have in your actual bank account into this other currency at the going exchange rate. Once you have property in Second Life, you can develop it, you can build on it, you can build a house there, or a building, or a coral reef, or a replica of the inside of the whale. Or if you don't know how to make graphics that look the way you want them to look, you can hire people to build things for you in Second Life. They build things using the Linden scripting language, and you can pay them in Linden dollars, which they can then exchange into the currency of their own country and use to buy, actual apples at the store down the street. And there are people who have jobs in Second Life as virtual wedding planners for people whose avatars get married in Second Life, virtual costumers for people who want more wardrobe options than comes for free, virtual architects to make all these properties. And yes, there are houses of worship in Second Life. So how do you get there? Well, it's not a simple website and doesn't work the same way a website works, even though it requires the internet. Because it's a virtual world, it requires a Second Life viewer that you can get for free on your computer. So Joshua is launching the Second Life viewer right now. Oops.
Of course, it always has to update.
Yeah. I was practicing last night and it asked me to update too, so I guess it's going around. I think I don't have this in my talk, so while we're waiting, I'll just share that the first time I went into Second Life, it takes some getting used to, and Well, I had a number of mishaps, and long story short, I wound up stuck in the rafters of a building wearing nothing but a bustle. Not my intention, and not something that would likely happen to me in real life. So it wasn't a very positive experience. So then I took to Facebook and asked, can somebody please help me? Mostly people just laughed at me in my predicament. So is this the synagogue, or? Oh, you're going there now? Okay. I didn't remember them having such lovely bluebells in the sanctuary, so. Okay, so where we're landing right now, we've just teleported, because that's how you get around. We are standing, yes, no, not yet. We are on our way. We are on our way to the temple grounds of the Second Life Synagogue, also known as Temple Bet Israel. So in a moment, we'll see whether anyone else is here or not. I was in here recently, and I saw Spock from Star Trek. Oh yeah, he's still there. I was wondering if that was an avatar or just sort of a permanent fixture. Seems to be a permanent fixture. So the person we see here in the top hat is Joshua's avatar, Rin Rodex. His avatar has a name, so does mine. Mine's Clement Pelliot. And when you sign up for Second Life, you provide the first name of your avatar, and Second Life fills in the last name, or it might give you like a choice of 3, I think. And you can change the appearance of your avatar. We'll see how that works in a moment. And there's some things you can edit for free on your appearance. You can kind of choose from among some hairstyles and from among some different outfits. And then, of course, if you want something that looks really unusual and interesting, you have to buy that from somebody. And again, you should be careful when changing your wardrobe in a public place, because otherwise you may end up stuck in the rafters wearing only a bustle. Which brings me, the rafters, brings me to another exciting facet of Second Life, that your avatar can fly. So do you think the temple is tall enough that we can fly around? Okay. All right. Whee! So okay, so while we're flying, or if we have to stop and walk around, that's fine. But we can look around the synagogue. So when you come in, I mean, it looks like a synagogue, well, perhaps except for Spock there. There are areas where you can put on a kippah or a yarmulke. There's Shabbat candles that are lit at the appropriate times for the areas that they're in. And if you, I can't have a kind of funny angle here, but if you turn around and face the ark, I believe there's an eternal light there also. Oh, yeah, there it is, in the same that there would be in a regular synagogue. There's Torah scrolls, as you can see. And is it possible to show them how to sit down on one of the... Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, yeah, we'll do that in your utopia. Anything else y'all want to see while we're here? Okay. So let's go somewhere else then, right? I mean, we've seen this. Let's go outside where there is a whole Jewish neighborhood in Second Life. So if you want to if you're Jewish and you want to put your property in Second Life, you could, I believe, build your house here. You could hang out here. This could be your kind of home location. Yeah, flying is good for when you're surveying an area. And I don't know what kind of boundaries they put on how Jewish your presence has to be, because when I was exploring here yesterday, there was a place for a tarot reading, and I thought, well, maybe I've wandered out of the jurisdiction, but... Oh, a giant teapot. Okay. That's probably sufficient. Okay, so how do we get to other places in Second Life? As I mentioned before, we teleport. So you can fly. So, you know, why couldn't you teleport, really, once you've broken the flight barrier? so let's teleport to another area that might be a little more familiar to some of us in this room. If you've ever been to one of Life Church's campuses here in Tulsa, you may feel as though you've seen this before. If you haven't, now you will be able to say that you have. Life Church, as you know, is a community in Tulsa that has different locations, and their sermon is broadcast to those locations, to those satellites, and they also have one in Second Life. So here it is. Here we are in the lobby. This is the landmass that we're on right now is called Experience Island, and it's really, this is what it is. I mean, it's Life Church's presence in Second Life. Let's start by going into the sanctuary, I think. So here we are. We haven't encountered anyone else yet, but that's largely because there isn't anything happening here right now. But if it were a Sunday morning, it would be broadcast in much the same ways. Oh, look.
You may offer rewards, or you may withhold rewards, so you're not going to get good.
Very good. And you could sit, but we're going to save that for later. And as I understand it, it looks like they're at least one of their actual sanctuaries. So that's kind of exciting. Okay, since there's nobody else in there, I mean, we could watch the sermon, but let's also see the lobby. All right, so if you go out, after a while, there's a computer kiosk in the lobby, isn't there? Okay, yeah. So if you go to one of these computer kiosks and you click on that, you get an alert asking if you'd like to launch the website for Life Church. So if you do that, the website launches. It opens up a new window. And at the top there where it says Live Now, that means that there is an online experience happening. We saw that when we were in the sanctuary and there was something playing on the screen. If there were nothing happening right now, it would say, 30 minutes until the next online experience. Okay, so going back into the Second Life viewer, we can see there's a lot more to explore in the lobby. So if we go over here to the Life store, you can get t-shirts. And so I wonder, would you mind if Rin Rodex put on a t-shirt? Okay. So Rin Rodex has just put on a t-shirt. It may be that it doesn't show through the blazer there. Oh, no, I see, you have to activate it. My avatar is right now wearing a Life Church t-shirt because I tried that last night. These are the kinds of things that I was trying to do when I got stuck in the rafter at the bustle.
It's not going to have to tie it as a certain costume.
Oh, okay. Right, that makes sense. Well, I wish I could show you my avatar. When I did it last night, it was pretty seamless. I just clicked on it and said, this person is trying to sell you this for $0 Linden. Do you want to accept? And boom, I was wearing the Life Church t-shirt. So that meant that wherever I go in Second Life, as my avatar, I'm advertising Life Church. Okay, so let's go over to the bookstore area. And if Rin Rodex clicks on one of the books, then some of them are actual objects within Second Life, and some of them, if you click on it as an actual published book, it'll take you to Amazon.com where you can buy the book and have it sent to you. Here we go. We all know what an Amazon page looks like, it's fine. Okay, so turning the corner after the store, we find an area where there's video on demand. I think that's out there. Oh, yeah, let's go over to the welcome area. This is kind of cool. I haven't seen this in action, but so behind that welcome desk, sorry, I meant we can do this. That hallway there through those doors is actually like it has a replica of their nursery. As I understand it, Second Life is for people 16 years and older, so I don't know what the point of a Second Life nursery is, but, you know, it at least shows that they have them. See? We're in a Sunday school room. And I couldn't remember, you showed it to me, Joshua, but how do you request live prayer again? I couldn't.
Back in the congregation.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, their run is not actually a run. It's a run.
It's all those binding 19th century clothes that you've got on him. Okay, so you just requested live prayer? Okay. Yeah, so in the worship room, you can request to have somebody pray with you, and they've got kind of round-the-clock volunteers to pray with people who ask for prayer. Are you going to tell them, no, we're just a room full of people watching how the internet works? Okay.
Pray for OCTJ.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Let's skip the aerial view and just go to Utopia, I think.
Excuse me, is it this dark in reality, or is it just the...
This one's particularly dark. The cycle of day and night in Second Life is very short, and I don't know if we're just catching it at nighttime or if the inside looks really dark.
It's mostly the projectors.
Oh, it's the projector, okay. So you can see this is less hard to see everything. Yeah, so this is Utopia. We've just teleported there. That's the Unitarian Universalist region in Second Life. And if we go, let's skip the bridge and just go, we're in the Peace Center, or we're going to the Peace Center and then to the Library of World Religions. And so we need to get the teleport beam, which is this thing over here.
We're in the Peace Center. Do you want to go to the...
Oh, we're in the Peace, okay, this is the Peace Center, and then, yes, let's go to the Library of World Religions. And as you can see, when you arrive somewhere new, it slowly fills in the graphics, and that's going to happen faster or slower based on your connection speed. So this is the Library of World Religions in Utopia, and there is a whole resource center along the walls. Yeah, it really does show up dark. So if you can't see it, it's organized by different religious traditions as well as some New Age traditions. And you can actually, I mean, it's not like you can order stuff on Amazon. You can click on them and actually read, whatever resources they've compiled. So,
So the Unitarians are more generous than the Life Church?
You're trying to trap me. At least they have organized their Second Life presence a bit differently. Okay. Are you guys able to see those words? I can't, but okay. So nature-based religions, Eastern religions, I can't even see. Oh, God of Abraham. And then maybe let's go to the lecture hall. So again, we go to the teleport beam and click lecture hall. So this is where you could go if they were having a lecture in here. And I mean, a lecture, having been to public speaking events in Second Life, it really is amazing how much it feels like an actual event you're sitting at, because the person's avatar would be there at the little podium, and then they'd have their voice chat turned on. So, and they would gesture and speak, and you'd be able to hear them, and you could talk back if you wanted, or you could submit questions over chat. In fact, I know one progressive church in Second Life, Koinonia, that's one of their ministries, that they orient people to Second Life who find it strange. And so I attended one of those, and the pastor, Kimberly Knight, Sophie Ann Road in Second Life, was, speaking in front of a group, giving a talk, showing how you interact with objects, how you sit, fielding questions from the group. All right, maybe we should go, to the discussion room. And then here's a room for discussion. Second Life's really big because everybody makes their places where people can go, and so you actually don't run into people a whole lot, at least not in the places where I go, though there are some NC-17 areas of Second Life, but I've not had that experience. But in these areas, you could make an appointment, say, to meet up with somebody in there and have a discussion. And then, of course, the people who run Utopia might schedule things that you could meet in there and discuss things with other people. All right. Is that
fascinating.
Oh, I didn't know if we were
We're tight on time.
Okay, so let's just do quickly Skype, and we'll do it really fast. So we've closed our Second Life viewer and let Joshua's laptop breathe a sigh of relief. But for our last talk, we're going to talk about Skype. Skype is voice over IP or voice over internet protocol service. What does that mean? It just means that it's a service where voice messages, like the thing that happens when you talk on the phone, are transmitted over the internet instead of over a public switch telephone network. A public switch telephone network is the one that we all think of when we think of the phone, cellular networks, communication satellites, telephone cables, etc. IP phone services use networks that communicate with internet protocol. That's the only difference. In either case, it's data being disseminated over a network. IP phone subscriptions have been rapidly increasing in recent years, and Skype isn't the only one around. You may have heard of Vonage or Google Voice. And in fact, AT&T recently requested that the FCC oversee its translation to internet telephony from the public switch telephone network. So you may be switched over to IP phone service without even knowing. Skype lets you communicate with others via a microphone, webcam, or instant messaging. You can call other Skype users for free, and you can call landlines and mobile phones for a small charge that is debited from your account. So let's take a look at the Skype screen. Right, so it's just, simple. It's as simple to call somebody as it is to send an email. Basically, they're in your contacts and you call them, or you can call a landline just by typing in the number. So what does this have to do with faith communities? Well, as with any technology that changes how people connect with one another, this technology has been taken up and directed to uses that faith communities value. For example, Holy Family Episcopal Church in Panama City, Florida, was glad when Aaron and Holly Kuster said that their family would like to join the church through confirmation. They had been attending for many months, but there was only one problem. Aaron served in the military and would be deployed at the time of the bishop's visit, which is an important part of the ceremony whereby one is received into the Episcopal Church. So this news item and this slideshow tell the story of how Aaron was received via Skype with the bishop and other confirmands in Panama City while he was in Qatar. So that's what it looks like if you're doing a video chat with somebody via Skype. All right, let's move on to the next story about a faith community using Skype. Apparently, bar and bat mitzvah tutors, those who help adolescents learn Hebrew and practice chanting their Torah portion, have proliferated on the internet, promising things like flexible schedules and no synagogue fees. Of course, YouTube is a compendium of help, too, for kids trying to learn the appropriate prayers. And we're looking at one such site, mybarmitzvahteacher.com, where you can see that it basically involves downloading audio samples, so let's click on samples, and practicing them.